doing that and you're being here. So this morning, Commissioner Fye came in, but she had to make a quick return home. So she will be joining us a little later. I anticipate that Commissioner Rogers will be joining in at some point. So today we have two topics before we convene for our meetings in the auditorium. The first one is the general formal agenda item check-in. So related to that, I wanted to explain that there is one item that I asked to have on the agenda. It's item G2, which is related to the West Slope Library. So the board is very well informed of the plan subsequent to our budget last year. Things are going well. I'm really pleased about that. Great work, Lisa Tattersall. Thank you to the Garden Home Community Library and the West Slope Library folks, and that is on track. This action item is just to formalize the plan that we gave thumbs up to here in work session. So that's as simple as that is. Maybe I should have considered having that on the consent agenda, but nonetheless, we've got it.
Yeah, Chair, on that, Danny Ledesma, Assistant County Administrator, will give a brief kind of overview of the process, but there will not be a PowerPoint presentation. So at the meeting, she will. Sorry. She got so excited. She wanted to do it now.
Well, good news. So it doesn't look like we have any questions on that for now, but go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I just wanted to chime in here, and because I've had a role.
Feel free to chime in the other meeting too.
I will. I just have had a role moving this work forward, and I really timing is perfect, Lisa. I really appreciate.
We hope you heard our discussion while you were out in the hallway.
I really appreciate the work that Lisa and the staffs of the libraries have done, and the community in relationship to hearing the message from the last budget meeting and putting their best foot forward, working hard to come up with a solution that was raised at the last budget session. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. And I'll say the same thing in the meeting today.
Great. Welcome, Commissioner Rogers. So with that, were there any other questions on today's agenda items?
So it's going to go to consent or not? We're going to take it off separately.
It's published in the action, so.
I didn't know if you said that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item then. Mr. Munn, review of recommended appointments to the Washington County Audit Committee.
Morning, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. For the record, my name is Greg Munn. I serve as the CFO for the county. And this agenda item today is the purpose is to update the board regarding the audit committee's applicant pool, the recruitment process, and the recommended applicants to be appointed to the audit committee. And I have to say that, well, just generally we have 7. There are lost back here. We have 5 applicants, and we have 5 we have 4 of the positions are currently vacant, and we have 1 will be vacant July 1st. So we have 5 applicants to share here. So the purpose today is I wanted to just give you an overview, and I'm really excited about the pool. Sometimes things align and you get a great set of applicants for whatever it is you're doing. These people were great. I had to keep myself from smiling every time we were interviewing. So that's the story today. I want to give you an overview of them and give you a chance to ask some questions, and then we'll be back on May 21st to ask for the board's approval. Okay, so I'll give you
Questions?
give you a quick bio on the
Sure.
applicants. Okay, so Andrew Carlstrom was the first candidate. He's the customer service director for Tualatin Valley Water District. He served on the Metro Audit Committee in 2010 and from 2014 to 23. He also served on the Tualatin Valley Water District Budget Committee from 2013 to 2016, and he's interested in serving in his community, which is why he applied for this spot. I'm going to mispronounce this. Satish Upadhyay. Maybe I got that part of the way right. He's the Deputy Director for the Oregon Department of Revenue. He served on numerous audit committees in the state government, including the Department of Administrative Services, Department of Forestry, and the Department of Revenue. He has an MBA and a master's in taxation. He has over 35 years of public service with the state, mostly at the senior exec level, focusing on fiscal issues. Interestingly, he was contacted by our auditor, our elected Washington County Auditor, Christine Adams-Wanberg, and suggested that he apply, and he would also like to contribute to the county of his residence. Peter Parmentier, he's the Chief Audit and Risk Executive for Pacific Corp. He has 30 years experience in audit, compliance, and risk, spanning Fortune 50 companies to state and local governments. He's a certified internal auditor. Served on the Shoreview, Minnesota Parks and Rec Committee, and he has more time now and would like to bring his experience and give back to the place that he calls home.
Isn't he also on ERMDAC?
I think so.
Yeah.
I recognize.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that he is very interested in supporting Washington.
Prashant Rulasikaran, pronouncing that, I'm sure. He's the CFO for Trailhead Credit Union. He has volunteer experience, including Cash Oregon, Brown Hope, and Metropolitan Family Service Oregon. He would like to be more impactful in his home community. And the final candidate is Janice Richards. She's the principal internal auditor with PERS. She's been a licensed CPA since 1998. She has 30 years experience as an auditor of state and local governments in Oregon, previous board experience, and like the others, would like to give back to her community in her area of expertise. So, fantastic pool. That concludes my presentation. Any questions?
When you come back to us in May, will we be considering just the 4 or the 5, given that you said there's another vacancy coming up in July?
So what I would like to do is ask the board to appoint the 4 immediately for the upcoming audit committee process, which is right around the corner, and approve the appointment of the 5th to start July 1st.
Great. Okie dokie.
Let me ask a question about the audit committee. Does it require a board representative as well?
Yep.
Yeah. Wanted to think about that.
Well, nope, Roy's taken it back on as of last year. So it's one of the committee assignments that when we have our new formation in January, we'll go through the whole list and
Thank you.
reorient. Terrific.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to a very exciting development. Sorry. Contain yourself, Catherine. This is with regard to the construction of the Center for Addiction Triage and Treatment. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't.
We're very excited too.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I am Stuart Spafford, the facilities project manager for the CAP project. This is Kristen Burke, the, let me read it here, Special Project Supervisor for HHS. We're pleased to be here to update you on the guaranteed maximum price for the first building of the CAP project. Kristen has given me 8 minutes to do this, so I'm going to zip through as quickly as possible.
Oh, well, you have more than that, given that we've been pretty quick with time today.
Okay.
Unless you want to practice for your business meeting presentation.
So today's presentation, we're going to do a quick summary of the project history, which we know you're very familiar with, so we'll get through that. We'll show the cost development process, and then kind of describe the early work contract that we're working on, and then go to the next steps for the project. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the timing of this meeting. We wanted to, as soon as we got the GMP, we wanted to get on your schedule to get this meeting in so that we could get approval as quickly as possible.
We're anxious for it to open, so the quicker we can help get it built, the quicker you're able to pull together the workforce with the operations contractor, the better off we'll all be. So no apologies for trying to tighten things up.
Thanks. Project history, again, you were very familiar with. We don't really need to go into this unless you have questions.
It's always interesting from a public standpoint to talk about how this is funded. So I don't know if I haven't looked at this slide presentation. I guess I don't have to admit that. Anyway, but yeah, that's the question I get asked most is how's this be funded? So we can skip over it for right now, but that needs to be top of mind, I think.
Yeah, I can touch on that really quick since we're right here. The project is funded through a blended array of different funding sources. We had, there's really the capital funding as well as the operational funding. So for the capital funding, we used some behavioral health reserves, but we really reached out to a lot of our health partners and asked them to provide some capital funding. So we received funding from the Oregon Health Authority, from 2 of our local CCOs, Care Oregon and HealthShare, as well as Trillium Community Health Plans and Yamhill Community Health Plan. We also applied opioid settlement dollars towards this project, both for capital and then also for ongoing funding. And then the Oregon Health Authority provided funding through Measure 110 as well as through a residential grant. So it's really a broad array of funding sources. We were also really fortunate to receive some funding from the Oregon legislature in 23 and 24, as well as we're in the process of applying for the congressionally designated funding that was awarded in the last funding session. So that's, the capital is really just a lot of different sources blended together. The operational costs will be largely funded through Medicaid billing, as well as a little bit of state general fund for indigent services, and then the opioid dollars. So it really is a collection of a lot of different sources.
Yeah, thank you for that quick refresh because the question is always 2-part, how you building it and how you operating it. So yeah, thanks for that.
And I also want to say, we cannot thank all of those partners and funders enough. So every opportunity that we have to thank all of them, it's great. And that includes cities, some of the cities here in Washington County that have provided their opioid settlement dollars. I think that includes Beaverton, Hillsboro, Forest Grove,
Cornelius and Tigard.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
Growing list. Thank you.
While I agree with you, I think it's appropriate to thank them for their partnership in this, because we're solving this problem together.
Yeah, much needed project.
And I will say we've been really appreciative of the planning departments in City of Beaverton and City of Hillsboro because we've been working with them around modifying some zoning language, things like that. And so it's been really nice partnership. Thank you.
Okay. Back in April, we hired R&H Construction as our construction manager, general contractor. We got them doing pre-construction services with 3 components to study the site investigation to really so that we could really understand the existing buildings that we had purchased and accumulated, and so that we could get taking that investigation and getting it into the construction documents with the architect and coordinating with them to make sure that we understood the scope of the project and to get it really kind of finely honed. And then also working on cost development, really getting bids from contractors to look at the scope, to understand the scope and give us a price that they thought was reasonable. So our cost development process, R&H, they performed 4 cost estimates. Each time they reviewed new construction documents that provided more information so they could really hone in on on changes and that kind of thing. And then those four culminated in the guaranteed maximum price, which we received a week ago, something like that.
2 weeks ago, recently.
We had a third-party estimator to check or to do an estimate as well in parallel, so that we could really look at both cost estimates to find differences and really talk about them. So that was our cost development process. This is just a summary of those cost estimates with the guaranteed maximum price in the upper right.
I just want to say, I can't help it, on that slide. I just want to say thank you to our facilities management team and you two as well as R&H and the other external cost estimator. It's been an exploration with the two buildings that we have acquired, and I appreciate all that, in my words, investigation, the exploration, in my words, investigation in yours, and really getting us to this guaranteed maximum price. It's really excellent work. Thank you.
I wanted to touch on actually going back to this slide. You'll notice there is a significant difference between the final guaranteed maximum price and the DCW estimate. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So we investigated in collaboration with our general contractor about what are some of the root reasons behind the difference in pricing. And so there were three real significant ones. The first one is allowances. There were 20 different line items of things that hadn't made it into the plans that went to the external cost estimator. So those are things like last minute ads for paging systems and asphalt repair in the parking lot and those sorts of things. So that accounted for about $400,000 of the difference in the cost. So those allowances were included in R&H's budgets, but were not included in the external cost estimator's budget. So that was a chunk of it. The other thing is early on in the process when we were selecting the general contractor construction manager, one of the things we chose to do was really prioritize an organization that had a very strong centering on equity and enhancing the use of co-bid firms. And so R&H, their proposal included a mentorship with Advanced Tribal, where they basically had Advanced Tribal walk through this journey and learn how to be a construction manager. And that came with a cost. And so that was a cost that we chose to absorb during the initial contract that isn't reflected in the DCW pricing. And then finally, really the one that was the biggest influencer of the change or the difference between the two prices is just the method that was used between the two estimates. DCW is really a per item estimate based on industry standards versus R&H's proposal or guaranteed maximum price is based on actual bids from contractors. And so, when we talked about that with them, and we also went back with DCW to talk to them, and really there's just a lot that you cannot capture in a review of plans, what they call fiddly work, things that just require a lot of attention to detail and take time that the bidders included in their proposal, but wasn't necessarily captured. And so that was a big piece of the difference in the pricing. We did talk to them about the pricing and to ensure that they were really getting comprehensive bids from subcontractors. And I have to say, we're really impressed with the approach that they took. They reached out to subcontractors through a lot of different methods, a lot of publications, trade shows, just actually reaching out to organizations. And they really centered again on trying to find co-bid firms that could participate in the project. So overall, they had 115 bids submitted from various subcontractors, and every single scope of the work had good coverage, a minimum of 2 bids per scope of work, with an average of over 4 bids per scope of work. So they had really good response in terms of sub bids, and that led us to believe that the pricing that they are using is really competitive.
So we are trying at this point to get a early work scope. We've been trying for a while now, and it is basically the construction contract. And then, it's, you guys approve, I'm sorry, the commissioners approved for 1.5 million. And the GMP will be an amendment to that contract. So, so that's what's going on with the early work. We are in the final stages of the contract process. And we hope to start construction next week with the early work package. And so the approval is on the consent agenda item for the regular board meeting. And as I said, the GMP will be added to the early work contract. So if
Perfect. Board members, any questions?
Yeah, I do. And it's not on your process, because it sounds like, I mean, everything was done well on what methodology, but the common vernacular on GMP is that, you know, for small projects, is it, that is a maximum price, but no one on large projects is going to be stuck with that. I mean, there must be some outs for the contractor in the event of certain conditions. I mean, subcontractors leave the job and they can't get them back. Right? But what exposures, just out of curiosity, what exposures do we have on that?
So, okay. So first of all, that is all the language that we've been negotiating between R&H, our facilities and council to negotiate those sorts of what happens when there is a change of scope or there is, you know, because yes, GMP, it does mean guaranteed maximum pricing, and these are very complex projects. And so we expect things to happen that will require amendments. So we've worked all that out through contract language again with council and made sure that we were all both comfortable, both R&H and ourselves. We have some contingency built into the contract, the GMP amount. And then we also have a separate contingency fund that we're holding on our end across both buildings, just in case something comes up that we're completely unaware of. For instance, we have a 60,000 gallon diesel tank underground on one of the sites that we don't know until we start pulling it out if there's any ground contamination that we're going to have to. So we've been preparing for having, you know, a plan for if the worst case scenario comes up that something big happens that we weren't aware of.
Sort of answered it, but I just would say there's a lot of exposures, and I know the board would probably be interested when those things happen. On this building, when it was built, one of the things that we didn't plan on was all kinds of streams underneath the building that would require pumping, and that was a big surprise. So things happen, and it's not anybody's fault; they just happen.
Yeah.
What's your process to bring that back to the board? What is there a certain trigger point? I mean, you're not going to bring back a $10,000 item, but what's the trigger?
Anything that is above board's action today would be a trigger to bring that back to the board.
Right.
For additional, it could come just through a briefing email, depending on the scope of the amendment needed. As was addressed, we do have contingency built in, so hopefully that provides us the fiscal buffer that we need. But just as with any project, we keep your board apprised as we move forward.
Just seems like there's a prudent approach here, and I think that's what Commissioner Rogers is asking for is, are we exhibiting that type of approach? And I'm very comfortable with it.
Seeing head nods all around, I'll just close it out with, you've used a really good process, and our current team, including yourselves and the other members of our One Washington County team, have worked very collaboratively to ensure that we're using our best known practices and are going into this complex project with a lot of front end work sorted out and a process that will see us through to the grand opening and subsequent operation. So you have the board's full confidence. You have had it from the day that you brought this idea forward to us in 2019 to explore. You've brought us along at different steps all through this process thus far. And we know from the system that you've used to bring us along, as well as partners, that you deserve that full vote of confidence. So thank you very much. We appreciate all of the due diligence that all the teams have done on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Harrington. Thank you, commissioners.
All righty, so we don't really have any 20-minute items to try and tackle between now and our business meeting. So we'll get to start promptly at 10 o'clock today, which is a rarity. So we'll see you then. Thank you.